guest this evening is Dr. Sam Osmanagich. And Dr. Sam Osmanagich is a Ph.D., discoverer of the Bosnian pyramids, foreign member of Russian Academy of Natural Sciences, director of Center for Archaeology and Anthropology at American University in Bosnia-Herzegovina. And his books are available on Amazon.com. You can access his website at samosmanagich.com. And please welcome Dr. Osmanagich to the show this evening. Good evening, sir, or good morning.
Hello, how are you? Good to be here.
It's wonderful to hear your voice, and I have to tell you, I admire your work, and I have so much respect for you. So thank you for sharing your time with us this morning. We really appreciate it. I know the listeners are very excited as well. And tell everybody what you're working on right now. I know you're in Bosnia this morning.
Yes, I'm in Bosnia. I'm 6 hours ahead, so it's early in the morning in Bosnia. And well, for the last 12 years, I've been running the Bosnian Pyramid Project, so majority of my activities are really there. And it's June, it's open archaeological season. We have volunteers in Bosnia already. We have some energy measurements. We have tourists coming. So staying very, very busy at this moment.
Oh, that's wonderful. And also when you're right now that you've been excavating with the Bosnian pyramids, if anybody wants to jump on board and participate with that, is it still a possibility?
Of course.
Okay. So what's the best way to do that?
Well, on our website, bosnianpyramid.org, people can find information how to apply for the volunteers, and there are several different programs. And the good thing about the Bosnian Pyramid Project is that this is the first large-scale archaeological project where professionals and non-professionals alike can come, work with us, be a part of discoveries, find artifacts, find organic materials to be dated, find more exposed concrete blocks and things of that nature.
That's wonderful. Very, very good. And can you describe some of the energetic signatures associated with the site itself? I know that you were working with frequencies and measuring certain transmissions or frequencies from the pyramids itself. Can you go into a little more detail on that?
Yes. I've been researching pyramids for 35 years now, and I have noticed that everything they've been telling us about the pyramids is wrong. I mean, they've been talking about Egyptian pyramids like tombs for pharaohs, even though in the biggest Egyptian pyramids, the mummies have never been found, and they never will be found, because the pyramids were simply not tombs, they were not places to sacrifice the enemies. The pyramids were simply energy machines. So for the last 12 years, we've been trying to find the true purpose of pyramids, and yes, it is related to the energies, to the very specific frequencies. And, I would say that since I've been researching pyramids all over the planet, I realized that everything they tell us about the pyramids is not only wrong. They start with the idea that pyramids are built only in Egypt and Mexico, but in reality they are built all over the planet, on all 6 continents. And you mentioned my PhD. My PhD was about the Mayan pyramids in Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, Belize, Mexico. Almost 100,000 pyramids were built there. But more than 95% of them are still hidden in the jungles, in the forests, covered by soil and vegetation. So what do we know about the civilization based on only 5% of their temples and cities? And I expanded my research not only to the Central American pyramids, but the pyramids in Peru, in Bolivia, the pyramids on the US soil, and we have them in the southwest corner of the state of Illinois. They call them Cahokia Mounds. But in reality, they are huge pyramids, but unfortunately, archaeologists do not investigate them. When I was talking to them, they said, well, it is very expensive, archaeology costs so much money, plus it is hard to get permissions. And it is a shame. These are huge, huge pyramid structures, and we don't know their purpose. We don't know about the tunnels, about underground chambers. So the same thing is in China. When I was there, 20 biggest pyramids out of 250, they've never been touched. And the Chinese government knows that they are over 12,000 years. So now you realize, hey, these structures are so old, and the purpose is not known to the people. And in China or in the US or on the island of Mauritius or Canary Islands or some of the Egyptians, they don't touch them because they know they are going to change the history. Number one, they are product of more advanced civilizations, and it simply does not fit in our view of the ancient history. And number two, they are huge energy machines. So I would say because of the pyramids, we will need to change our scientific paradigm, our ideas about the past. That's why researching the pyramids is so important for the present. And then, in Bosnia, when I came here first time in this little town of Visoko, in the heart of Bosnia, 12 years ago, I came to visit the local museum. And then I saw this hill, as people called it, towering the town. And of course, it was covered by soil and the forests. And that's exactly the same thing in China, the Shanxi province, or Guatemala, or Mexico, because this is the same climate belt, China, Bosnia, Mexico. And people know about the pyramids, people know about the Egyptian pyramids, but they are south, they are in a desert. The climate is different, no rain, Peru, the same thing. They are also south. So you can see those structures over there. But in China, Bosnia, Guatemala, actually you need to dig, you need to remove the layers of soil and vegetation in order to discover the structures. And that's exactly what happened back in 2005 and 2006. When I came to Bosnia, I saw the shape of the pyramid, and it is very obvious. I mean, you just look from far, you can see four sides, triangular faces, corners, is the same slope from the bottom to the top. I took a compass at that time. Compass showed me that the sides of the pyramids perfectly matched the cardinal points, east, west, north, south. And that's how the pyramids were built in China, in Egypt, Peru, and other places. So we started excavation back in 2005, 2006, and 3-4 feet below the soil, we started discovering blocks, rectangular blocks, square blocks. We took samples, analyzed them at 7 different institutes for materials, and then we were told that it was concrete, artificially made concrete, and some people call it geopolymer concrete, some people call it synthetic concrete. But it is very advanced form of concrete. The ancients were using all natural construction materials. For example, as a binder, they used clay. But the properties of this concrete were much better than what we can make today. For example, the hardness of the concrete that we make in 21st century is on the scale from 10 megapascals to 60 megapascals. 60 is usually made in Germany and the US. The concrete on Bosnian pyramids goes from 74 megapascals to 134 megapascals, which is twice or even 3 times better quality than what we can make today. So then we realize, hey, we have, people or builders who had very advanced technology. They could, get the best quality concrete, and they could maneuver with huge quantities of materials. For example, the Great Pyramid of Egypt was built using 5 million tons of blocks. The Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, 18 million tons of blocks. So now, of course, you have to have very advanced society to do that. And even Egyptian pyramids, unfortunately, Egyptologists have been working with them exclusively, not allowing some other scientific disciplines, to get involved, especially people who are experts in energy measurements, engineers, physicists, and so on. Back in 1970s, when Egyptologists invited leading Japanese geophysicists to help them to find hidden passageways and chambers in the second largest pyramid, Khafre pyramid. The Japanese never found passageways or chambers or mummies, but what they discovered was that every 10 minutes the energy field of the second largest pyramid was changing. And they were amazed. They said, well, this is not only the structure, this is a pyramid, this is an energy machine. But then Egyptologists threw him out of the country. They said, we did not ask you to come and tell us that this is energy machine, but we want you to find us a mummy. So after that, after 1970s, Egyptians never allowed experts in energy phenomena to come and research Egyptian pyramids, which is a shame. But of course, we know that the leading Egyptologists like Dr. Zaki Hawass, they are aware of the truth, but they are simply hiding it from the rest of the public. And if you, for example, go to Giza Plateau today, the Sphinx, you can see back and forth in front of the Sphinx and the back of the Sphinx, you can see the wooden pallets. And during the period of 1999, 2007, Egyptians were digging below the Sphinx, below the pond of the Sphinx. Of course, they were looking for the whole of the records, the Atlantean Library. And they have never released any information in the public. So when I was there 4 or 5 years back, I spoke to the Giza director asking him, what did they find so far? He told me, well, this is confidential. I said, why is it confidential? The knowledge belongs to all of us. This is the cultural heritage of the planet. The pyramid knowledge does not belong only to the Egyptian Supreme Council of Antiquities or the British government. It belongs to the people. And that's the reason when I started the project in Bosnia, I said there will be no secrets, no elite science, no selection of information. This will be the most open project in the world. And that's what we've been doing in the last 12 years, being the very open project, inviting everyone to come, professionals, non-professionals. And really, I would say that such enthusiasm has never been recorded in the last 100 years. You give a chance to people to come to become part of discovery, to discover artifacts, organic material. And that's why I'm so proud of so many volunteers. Only in the last 7 years, we have had 2,450 volunteers from 62 countries.
Wow.
6 continents. From 8 years old, coming with their parents, to 84 years old. So, these are not only the young people, but people who feel young at their hearts. And when they come here, they work with us, 10, 20 years from now, they can tell their kids or their grandkids, they were there in Bosnia in the beginning when we really needed them. So, this is completely new approach to archaeology, but also to the world of science. Back in 2005, we started as the archaeological project, digging. What we wanted to prove is that 1 meter or 3-4 feet below the soil, there was a huge construction, a structure. But then very soon we realized that archaeology is not enough. And that's why we started getting more from the classical scientific disciplines like geology, pedology, paleontology, then georadar screening, geophysical analysis, then satellite, geothermal, high tech. And then, it was like it became interdisciplinary scientific project. But then this was not enough. Then we included experts in energy phenomena, physicists, electrical engineers, sound engineers. So we added energy aspect. And then we realized that was not enough also, because there is a effects of this energy aspects to our spiritual body. So we added spiritual aspect. And then we have been receiving so many testimonies of people going to the tunnels under the pyramids, feeling the pyramid energy, getting excellent results when it comes to the self-healing. So we added self-healing aspects. So in order to understand the ancient sites, especially pyramids, but also megalithic sites like Stonehenge, Avebury Hill, Karnak in France, and so on, you need to apply all these 5 aspects: archaeology, science, energy, spirituality, and healing aspects. Only through those 5 aspects you can start understanding the ancient sites. Otherwise, if you stay only within one discipline, like archaeology, it's simply not enough.
Mm-hmm.
So Yeah, I would say, last 12 years been, such an exciting ride. I mean, this project has become one of the most exciting projects ever. And then the problem that I had in the beginning was about the definition of the pyramid. You go to Encyclopedia Britannica and you can read that Egyptian pyramids are tombs for the pharaohs. Of course, it might be a purpose, even though it is not, because in the biggest Egyptian pyramids, no tombs, no pharaohs, no mummies. If you go to the Giza Plateau, the biggest one, the Great Pyramid of Egypt, the mummy of the pharaoh Cheops or Khufu has never been found. You go to the second one, Khafre, no mummy of the pharaoh Khafre. Myser, Djoser, Sneferu, they are simply not there. The only mummy that has ever been found was the King Tutankhamun. But it was discovered 200 miles to the south in the Valley of Kings, not in the pyramids. But unfortunately, the Egyptologists for the last 200 years, supported by the Hollywood movies in the last 8 years, have simply created the idea that when it comes to the pharaohs, pyramids, the first association is tomb. And so I would say that this is probably the biggest hoax in the history, that pyramids were used as tombs and people simply don't ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
That's the problem with the Egyptian pyramids. The same thing with the Chinese. When I was there, I realized that out of 250 pyramids, 20 pyramids are real big, and they are built from different, more superior materials. The oldest pyramids in China are the most superior. They are built from granite and sandstone. And those that came later, for example, pyramids from the Emperor Qin's time, 2,300 years ago, until 1,000 before present, those are small. They were built from the mud brick, which is inferior material. They're teaching us in schools about the, evolutions, like before we were not so advanced. Today we are the most intelligent, the most technologically advanced, the most beautiful. But that is not the factual truth. We can see that in the last 6,000-7,000 years, yes, we do have Sumerians and Babylon and Akkad, Assyria, Hittites, ancient Egypt, ancient India. But this is just the last civilizational cycle. Before this one, there was another one, which stopped 12,000 years ago with a huge global catastrophe, with the end of the last ice age. At that time, more than 99% of humans were simply wiped off from the face of the planet. But there was very highly developed civilization then. But this civilization was, in a cycle before that, 18,000 years ago, was also disappeared. And there was another one, 30,000 years ago, another one, 55,000, another one, 75,000 years ago. So we can see that the civilizations developed, they reached their peak, and then something happened. A huge catastrophic event on the planet happened because either you have destruction from those civilizations, or, even more important, our planet has certain cycluses and they cannot be stopped. Mm-hmm. So history of humanity is not the history of the evolution, but cycle after cycle after cycle, and the pyramids played a major role. I could notice that the oldest pyramids in China are the most superior. The same case in Egypt. The biggest, the oldest are the most superior. Those that came later, for example, the pharaohs of the 12th, 24th, 26th dynasty, they were also built from the mud brick, which is even the construction material today. So, no evolution, simply the knowledge has been brought. Mm-hmm. China, to Egypt, to Bosnia, even to Mexico or Peru. So now we need to change our ideas about the history. Who was bringing the knowledge? So I would say when it comes to pyramid, it's completely new world, and they will help us to redefine the history books. Mm-hmm. Now, and that's exactly what we've been in Bosnia. we've been trying to find the definition of the pyramid. So we have developed a set of 10 scientific criteria for the pyramids. Number one, realize, of course, that you have to have a geometry of the pyramid if you want to call the structure pyramid. So in most cases, it is four-sided pyramid, triangular faces, those four faces meet at apex. And that's exactly what we have in Bosnia with the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun. The element number two, artificial construction material. In Peru, they used adobe bricks. In Guatemala, they shaped the volcanic stone. In Mexico, they used sandstone and granite. In Egypt, they used limestone and granite. In Bosnia, they used concrete. The element number three, the orientation of the sides. All the Chinese pyramids are oriented to the north. All old Egyptian pyramids, north. Most of the Peruvian, north. Some of the Mexican. All Cahokia pyramids in the States. So far, we thought that the best orientation was the northern side of the Great Pyramid of Egypt. It has error from the perfect cosmic north of only 0 degrees and 2 minutes. But the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, according to the State Institute for Geodesy, has an error of 0 degrees, 0 minutes, and only 12 seconds. This is the most precise orientation of the planet. Why is the orientation so important? Everything is energy. Our human bodies are just energy balls. Our planet is a huge energy ball, and there is energy flow within those energy balls. For example, on our planet, strongest energy flow is north-south, second strongest, east-west. So when you build a pyramid and perfectly oriented, it automatically initiates the movements of the energy within the pyramid. So that was element number three. Element number four, water. Of course, Egypt, River Nile, major rivers in Mexico, China, Peru. And we have two major rivers in Bosnia. We call them River Fojnica and River Bosna. So not only that the rivers are important, but also underground water flows, because pyramid builders were using water for the pyramid functions. And I will come to that. The next element, inner passageways, chambers. Of course, we have famous chambers. They call them, for some reason, kings and queens in the Great Pyramid of Egypt. But they have nothing to do with the royal furniture or mummies or things of that nature. Those chambers were actually the resonance chambers. The next elements, underground tunnels. At the Giza Plateau, where the major pyramids are located, we have at least 2 levels of underground tunnels. We have them in China. In Mexico, in the last 4 or 5 years, of course, we are aware of the investigation. Under Teotihuacan pyramids, the sun, the moon, Quetzalcoatl, underground tunnels have been discovered. Under major Mayan pyramids, like in Palenque, in the state of Chiapas in Mexico, underground tunnels, not only under 1 or 2 pyramids, but under the whole city. For example, in the case of Palenque, today we have 25 uncovered pyramids, but originally they had 1,229 pyramids just in one city. But now archaeologists are saying that probably there are tunnels connecting Palenque with nearby Mayan cities. So underground tunnels is a major element. In Bosnia, we know why. We have discovered so far 2 levels of tunnels. Probably we have 5 to 7 levels of underground tunnels. The first level is a huge labyrinth. I mean, the tunnels, they run for tens of miles. You have tunnels, you have intersections, you have chambers, you have underground lakes. But the concept of labyrinth is very important. Instead of having 1 or 2 straight tunnels, when you have a labyrinth, then the energy movement is much stronger. And we know from before that the pyramid has the power. For example, if you have water under the pyramid makes the water move. If you have the energy flow, the pyramid simply, gets this, underground energies and the energy is moving towards the pyramid. That's why the role of the underground tunnels is important. The next important element, the sacred geometry. What are the elements of sacred geometry? Well, one, for example, number pi, 3.14. It is irrational number, meaning it does not end ever. The real results of number pi is 3.141592653588 billions of digits. For the ancients, the irrational numbers were alive, they never end. So when they assigned them to the pyramid, their message was the pyramid is alive. 2. The second important number is number phi, or the golden ratio, 1.618, also irrational number. In the Great Pyramid of Egypt, when you take the length at the base, 231 meters, two lengths, 462, divided by height, 147 meters, the result is 3.14, the number pi. So it is obviously in front of us. But if you go back to the conventional science, the historians will tell you that the number pi was discovered only 2,000 years after the pharaoh of the 4th dynasty, the pharaoh Khufu, by the ancient Greek mathematicians. But this number was obviously incorporated in the Great Pyramid. So we need to change that. And of course, the Great Pyramid of Egypt is built not 4,500 years ago, but over 12,000 years ago by more advanced civilization. So we can see because of pyramids, we need to change the history of practically every country. Egypt, China, and the US, and Guatemala, and Peru, and Bosnia, and so on. So the elements of sacred geometry, besides the irrational numbers, also certain geometrical shapes are part of the sacred geometry. For example, equilateral triangle. It's a perfect geometrical shape with the three, same size with the inner angles at 60 degrees. And guess what? In Bosnia, we have not one, but we have at least 5 pyramids. 3 major pyramids. I named the pyramids of the Sun, Moon, and Dragon. When we connect the tops of those pyramids, distance between the Sun pyramid and the Moon is exactly 2,180 meters, approximately 1.3 miles. Between the Moon and Dragon, 2,180 meters, Dragon and the Sun, 2,180 meters. So we are getting equilateral triangle, the perfect geometrical shape, which is part of the sacred geometry. And when you have elements of sacred geometry, you have movement of the energy. The next element, the astronomical features. We notice the movement of the shadow of the Sun pyramid, especially during the summertime. As the Sun moves on horizon, the shadow moves in the Bosnian Valley of the Pyramids. And just before the sunset, the shadow of the Sun pyramid covers the Moon pyramid. And the top of the shadow touches the top of the Moon pyramid. So in symbolical way, the message from the builder says that the rule of the sun and the day is over, and the rule of the night and the moon starts. I've seen hundreds of the Sun and the Moon pyramids in the Central and the South America, but never such an obvious astronomical relationship like the one in Bosnia. And then we have also one interesting element which we called the volcanic lines. What are the volcanic lines? Well, if we connect to a volcano with a line, it is a volcanic line. But if we extend the line and at the end of the line you have a pyramid, then you can claim that the pyramid is sitting on the volcanic line. Well, why is this important? Because volcano, it means the energy. You have lava, you have iron, you have minerals, so you have underground forms of the energy. Well, we have analyzed 75 different sites in the world. The sites with the pyramids, the sites with megalithic structures, and also very important centers like Machu Picchu, Yonaguni, Göbekli Tepe, and so on. And we have noticed that all these sites have number of intersections of volcanic lines. For example, the largest pyramid in Mexico is Cholula Pyramid in the state of Puebla, largest when it comes to the surface. You have 16 volcanic lines ending in Puebla. Gunung Padang in Western Java, also with the new pyramid discovered there, 15 volcanic lines. Machu Picchu, 14 volcanic lines intersects over there. And the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun has 26 volcanic lines ending in the heart of Bosnia.
Wow.
So the location was important. And this is the next element, the location. Under the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, you have a huge iron plate. Why iron? Because iron generates its own electromagnetic field. What the pyramid does, it amplifies existing natural source of the energy, in this case, electromagnetic field. How do we know that? Well, two of our Russian colleagues, Professors Skavroshkin and Siplakov from the Schmidt Institute from Moscow, measured the strength of the electromagnetic field at the base of the pyramid and at the top. At the top, it was 50 times stronger. So, obviously, the pyramid is energy amplifier. So, the pyramid does not create energy from nothing. It amplifies existing sources. So, in our case in Bosnia, this was just the first source. The second one, 21 meters, about 65 feet, below the Sun Pyramid, there is an underground water stream, water flow. When water moves, it releases negative ions. The third energy form, 170 feet below the Sun Pyramid in Bosnia, we have another underground water flow. So when you have two parallel water streams, in between, the electrical field is generated. Energy form number 4, natural magnetism. Number 5, orgone or life energy. So the pyramid simply amplifies different natural energy sources. And that's the reason why the location of the pyramid, Bosnia, Egypt, Peru, Mexico, Tibet, and so on, was so important. So the ancients were looking for the best locations for their pyramids. More energy under the ground, bigger the pyramid. So we have 10 scientific elements that would define the pyramid. So what is the definition of the pyramid? Pyramid as the energy machine. Very simple, and that is really the solution for the Egyptology. The last 200 years, we have not received a true answer on who, when, how, and why. In the short 12 years in Bosnia, we have defined the pyramid. And now we are coming to your question from the very beginning. You know, pyramid as energy machine, the frequencies, how we can observe, how we can film, how we can measure. Of course, there are ways to do it. You know, our science, even though it's rather limited, can measure, can investigate, can film certain energy phenomena. For example, using the technology developed by British biologist Dr. Harry Oldfield and his special, as he calls it, PIP camera, we are able to look through the camera and see different bioenergy fields which are not visible to the naked human eye. Those bioenergy fields, they are always horizontal in the natural ambient, above the natural hills, above the cities or villages. However, when it comes to the energetically active constructions, structures like pyramids, those fields are always vertical. And we know why. Because inside the pyramid, since it's energy machines, the energy is getting accumulated. And then once the pyramid is full of the energy, it's getting released through the top of the pyramid. And this energy is hitting those horizontal energy fields, they become vertical. And because of this constant flow of the energy, the last 10 years, that's the period, while we were filming the energy fields above the Bosnian pyramids, those fields have always been vertical, meaning the Bosnian pyramid of the sun has been active energy machine, has been working continuously. Well, we've been filming it for 10 years. Most probably this pyramid has been active for a very, very long period of time. How long? So now we are coming to the next question in archaeology. Age, when the pyramid was built. So we are answering, in archaeology we have 5 questions. The first one is what? What is this? Well, we are claiming this is the pyramid as the energy machine. The second one, who? The third one, when? The fourth one, how? The fifth one, why? Well, when it comes to when, of course, the modern science has certain methods. For example, one of them, since the pyramid has been covered by soil and vegetation, if we can figure out the age of the soil, then we can get to the minimum age of the structure below. The science that investigates the origin of soil is called pedology. In Bosnia, we have Institute for Pedology, and after they have analyzed the samples, they told us that the age of soil is between 12 and 15,000 years, meaning the structure below is much older. And then during the excavation, we discovered organic material on the top of the concrete blocks. Well, since it was on the top, it meant that it is still the minimum age. Well, we have done the radiocarbon dating, and the age of the organic material on the top of the blocks was 24,800 years, plus minus 200 years. So we go back for 25,000 years, and this is still the minimum age of the structure. And then finally in 2013, our international team, done by archaeologists from New Zealand, Team Moon, discovered the organic material, the fossilized leaves, between 2 layers of concrete. So obviously the builders were laying out the first layer, the second, the third, the fourth, and then the wind was blowing, bringing the leaves on the top of that 4th layer, and then they placed the final layer on top of it. But those 2 leaves that we discovered would give us the precise date of the construction. So we did the radiocarbon dating in the lab in Kiev, and the age was 29,200 years, plus minus 400 years.
Wow.
So we go back for 30,000 years. Now, 30,000 years, as I said in the beginning, it's not something that's considered by the conventional science as the age of the advanced societies. They're talking only about 6,000 to 7,000 years and Sumerians. But we will need to change the history books, because this is not the only anomaly, as archaeologists would say. Because if you look all around the planet, in the last 20 years, we've been having so many sensational archaeological discoveries. For example, on the bottom of the Pacific floor, west from the Japanese island of Yonaguni, from 1995, 13 underwater cities have been discovered. These are cities with the megalithic structures, stepped in design, temples on the top. We have half-radius terraces. But somebody had the ability to carve huge megaliths. So it was an advanced society. But due to the fact that those cities are on the bottom of the Pacific floor, from 100 to 250 feet, the question is, who built them and when? Well, nobody built cities on the bottom of the ocean. At one point, they were on the surface. But the Pacific Ocean is the largest body of the water on the planet. Imagine how much water you would need to add to raise the level of Pacific Ocean just for 1 inch only. A lot. And imagine for 250 feet. It had to be a global catastrophe. And we know exactly when the last catastrophe happened, approximately 12,000 years ago. According to some authors, 11,500, according to some others, 12,500, but let's say 12,000 years ago. Until then, a lot of the water was really in the huge quantities of ice. Everything north from Austria in Europe was covered by ice. No France, no Poland, no Germany, no Scandinavia, just the ice, reaching 1.5 miles in height. Most of the northern Asia was covered in ice. Most of the northern United States and Canada was covered in ice. And now, 12,000 years ago, the ice started melting. Huge quantities of water went to the world seas and oceans. Pacific Ocean went up for 250 feet. Atlantic Ocean rose for 360 feet. It was a huge catastrophe. And Yonaguni monuments, as we call them today, they went down on the bottom of the Pacific floor. So obviously that was civilization older than 12,000 years. The second example, the Eastern Turkey. 20 years ago, late Dr. Klaus Schmidt, German archaeologist, discovered a site which will be known as the Göbekli Tepe. Göbekli Tepe, if you go to Wikipedia or any other sites, is officially 11,600 years ago. But when I spoke to the Dr. Schmidt, he told me it's probably 15 to 18,000 years old. What we can see today are 3 circles, and they consist of huge megaliths in the shape of the letter T, reaching 25 tons. So those circles, obviously, primitive caveman was not able to carve, transport, and install such a huge blocks. It had to be very advanced civilization. Only 3 circles of those blocks were uncovered. Klaus Schmidt told me probably there are dozens, if not 100 of them. So it was a huge construction feat. Well, those circles have been covered, have been filled with the material which consists of pebbles, rocks, sand, ground animal bones, and the ground human bones. And of course, bones you can date 11,600 years. Well, obviously, it changes our perception, even for the conventional scientists, of the human history. You go back 12,000 years, and probably, like I said, 15 to 18,000 years ago. According to conventional science, at that time, there were only nomads. Nomads were not capable of building such huge structures. Only agricultural society, which developed first in Sumerians 5,000 to 7,000 years ago, were able to do that. Well, they've been teaching us wrong. It was built much before their notion of the agricultural society. Of course, the oldest structures in Machu Picchu, they do not belong to Incas 800 years ago, but 55,000 years back you need to go. The oldest pyramids in Teotihuacan in Mexico, over 12,000 years. So it seems that we have such cases everywhere on the planet. So we need to expand our time frame for the human or for the advanced civilization. So once we do that, then we can start, getting those little, pictures into one big picture, to one big puzzle, and we can start understanding what was happening on this planet in the distant past. And the Bosnian pyramids are a very important element there. Yes.
Oh, absolutely. Can I ask you a real quick question about when you're talking about the timeline there about insofar as when this big catastrophic event happened? Does it have any correlation to the moon? There's a lot of theories about the moon being towed into orbit or causing a catastrophe. What is your impression of that?
Well, you are right. There are some ideas that the moon was artificially brought here. Some people are saying it's been there for 4 or 5 billion years. Some people are saying it's been there only for several thousands of years. It's hard to say. I mean, you need to independently verify those information. But something strange is happening with the moon, or especially with the dark side of the moon. It seems that there are a lot of activities, a lot of construction activities, a lot of psychological activities there, and the people are not aware of that. But according to a lot of documents that became public from 1970s up to today, we know that something strange is happening there. Probably the moon was used, or it's been still used as some type of the station to control what's been happening on this planet. But this is not really my area of expertise, but I have some ideas that something strange is happening there. But when it comes to the natural catastrophes, I would say our planet simply have those cycles. We can see the era of the Ice Age, which are rather long, and then we can see the warm period, 8 to 12,000 years. And during the warm periods, the civilizations, they develop, they expand, they are reaching the peaks. And the interesting thing is, it's been 12,000 years now, meaning this is the end of this warm cycle. So it's just a matter of a few hundred years before the next catastrophe will hit us. And it will hit us because we do not have ability to prevent that. So we better try living in harmony with this planet and not to behave as the conqueror of the planet.
Mm-hmm.
When you see our civilization in the last 150 years, we went from 1.5 billion people to 7.4 billion people today. And because we need so many energy resources, we've been doing so much harm to the nature. More than 50 species of the animals, of the plants, they've been gone because of us. Who gives us the right to do that to other species? So I would say that sometimes we behave as the uncontrolled virus. We will need to learn to live in harmony with this planet, to live in harmony with other species, if we want to survive. And the good lessons is from the past. When it comes to the energy, which is a very important aspect of the pyramid, everything we do today is wrong. We can see that for the last 250 years, we've been exploiting the coal, and coal is the base for the dirty industry. Oil and gas in the last 120 years, limited resources. And then all the frequencies that we've been using, for example, electricity, 110 volts in the US or 220 volts in the Europe, it's a very bad frequency for us. The mobile phones or the cell phones, 0.9 giga, it's so bad. You put it, next to your ear, your brain cells, they start boiling. Then the Wi-Fi, we started at the 2.4 giga, which is the frequency of the microwave. Today we are using 3, 4, even 5 gigas. So bad for our health. It seems that like somebody has been intentionally using such a harmful frequencies for humans. Like they want to make very aggressive zombies out of the human population. And look what the ancients were doing. They were building the most powerful geometrical shape when it comes to the energy, which is the shape of the pyramid. They were applying the elements of the sacred geometry to amplify the energy phenomena, and they were locating those pyramids above existing natural sources, getting the best energy fields and getting the best frequencies. And now we are coming really to the true purpose of pyramids, the frequencies, very specific frequencies. In the last 7 years, we've been using teams of the physicists and engineers in Bosnia to get the answer what was the purpose of pyramids. They were coming with the instruments and they've been measuring. For example, we had teams from Croatia back in 2010 measuring electromagnetic fields on the nearby hills in this town of Visoko, no anomalies, but when they came to the top of the Bosnian Pyramid of the Sun, in the radius of 13 feet, they detected and measured electromagnetism of 28 kilohertz frequency. They got out of this radius, no measurements. They went back in, the measurement was there. So it meant that the electromagnetism does not go left or right, but it goes up as the beam.
Very, very interesting. And we're heading for a break here. Everybody, please stay tuned. You're listening to Ravenstar's Witching Hour. I'm Solaris BlueRaven. My incredible guest tonight is Dr. Sam Osmanagich. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.